I'm live. Yay. I have a bit of chocolate on my mouth. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to close the other one.
I'm going to close the other one. Don't close it yet, actually.
What's the issue?
I'm just going to post the link again. We can't.
They just need to click on my name under the video.
Okay.
Right? And that'll take them to my channel. Sorry about these technical issues. YouTube has an interface that is not as user-friendly as I wish it were from the perspective of someone who's trying to run a live stream. So that's why we keep having these issues. But, you know, by the time this is all over, we'll have this process nailed. Hi, Simone. So glad you found me.
So we have 5 on that one, and the old one says we have 8 waiting. So give it another minute, and then we can.
Okay, I went from 4 to 5 on this one.
Okay, good.
Good.
Yeah.
So we're just some people are making the transition from the original link for this live stream. Hi, Irene. Tech is always fun. Oh my God. And here I am. I've been essentially working in tech since 1986. Hey, Sparkle Girl. I'm so glad you found the feed. Yay. Oh, is that Kay?
Yeah.
Sparkle Girl?
Yeah.
Excellent. So on the plus side, that means you don't have to have your hair done or dress in any particular way. There, said my connection was unstable. So let's see how the interwebs do today. I'm sitting in a different side of the studio table, aka the dining room table today, because this is how I was set up for yesterday's jelly jam class. And hi, Winnie. You have to have a sense of humor about these things, don't you? I mean, otherwise you just wouldn't survive them all. So this past week has been a busy one for us. But first of all, let me ask you how you guys are doing now that you've made it here and we can settle in. Did you have an okay week? You made it through. You're here, so that's a good sign. Cal and I have been very busy this week. Irene says it's been busy. Yes, you're a school teacher, and I know you were making the switch to the online teaching. I hope that went well, or at least, well enough. It can be a big, you can see my adventures in technology, and I even teach some aspects of technology. So there you go. But Cal and I started our online courses this week, which some of you know. And so I am teaching jelly jam monoprinting with gel plates, and it's a 4-week course. And it got going, and Cal and I ended up having 2 classes because, it was very nice that the reception was so enthusiastic for them. And Cal is teaching his collage explorations courses, and likewise he had to run 2 classes because we both want to have a quality experience for for anyone who's a student in them. That's more like our classroom experience where we would have a limit of 12 students. So for at least for this time, not interested in running a great big class. It depends on the topic and that kind of thing. But yeah. So anyway, it was nice to get started on those things. Plus doing this, plus Cal's Monday virtual collage jam. So it's the days are packed, and we're editing and uploading videos. So, and learning new skills like constantly. Does anyone feel like they're learning 100 or 200 new things every day, or adapting to so many things? Because I know that's how it is here. I mean, yes, I mean, hi Gunta, so glad you made it. That's wonderful. I mean, we got our big order of groceries finally. It took 2 weeks, and Cal went and picked them up and brought them home. And the processing of the groceries, the washing of everything and the putting it in the new containers or whatever. And then, of course, he arrives and he realizes like there's a whole lot of food that is on our receipt and it wasn't even in the order. So he had to call them. Turns out they had left out a whole bin. So he had to go back to the store and get the bin that they'd forgotten to pack into our car. So that was a bit of but that's just the way things are now, right? So I think we're going to give, that was the superstore, and I think we're going to give Longo's a try via Grocery Gateway. One of the problems is that superstore where I have a lot of food intolerances, which some of you know, and so there are certain kind of special foods that I order, like a special bread that I can eat. It's the only commercial bread that's readily available that I can eat, and we always buy it at superstore, and they told us this week, oh, it's not available. Which Cal's sort of wondering if he went into the store in person, would it really not be available, or are they being accurate about that? But anyway, that's the new reality, right? So it reminds me of when I was growing up and everything was harder. Remember when banks were never open at a time that anybody who had a job could actually go to them? They were open from like 9 to 3. So lunchtime, you just spent a whole lunch hour in line at the bank. Yeah, and before Sunday opening was a thing. Yeah, I feel like we're moving back to that, aspects of that, at least experientially, even if not literally in the details. So, I'm wearing a Halliburton School of the Arts apron. Of course, it's now Halliburton School of Art and Design, so this is a legacy apron. But some of you may know that they have canceled their summer school. A tradition that goes back before it became part of Fleming College. I think it started in 1967 or 68.
Scott Walling says, "Looking good."
Representing, Scott. Anyway, it was very sad, but not surprising to get the news that the summer school is canceled. They are working on developing some programming that will be available online. What that will look like and so on is yet to be determined. But I'm sure they will keep us updated, because I know they were interested in what we were up to online. And so nice to see you here, Scott. That's really great that you could come. And yeah, just thinking about everyone there, and yeah, it's hard to think about, because I know for a lot of people that's like a major highlight of the year or something to look forward to every year, going to the Halliburton School. Because I used to, before I was teaching there, I was taking courses, and Cal and I always thought of it as adult summer camp. So I was thinking about what I might do today, and I have an artist book that I did an image transfer into, I think possibly in the last virtual studio party, that I got started during a workshop I taught last fall. And but then I looked at it, this would be a good thing to work on, but I'm not going to work on it today. But I have this book I've been working on at an exceptionally slow pace. And but I love working on it, and it's an old science supplement for an encyclopedia. And it's from 1972, as you can see, and that was a period of really classic design, and they obviously paid for its very quiet quiet design, but it's very, very beautifully done. And so I've done, actually it works pretty well like this, Cal, so you don't need to do that. The lighting seems to be good on this, so I'm going to be able to hold it up like that. This is just the oh, what do they call these?
Papers.
End papers, thank you. You think I'd remember. Anyway, I've glued a bunch of the pages together, and you know, some interventions are quite small, and some are quite major. This one I quite like, actually. There was the portrait of the man, and I've transferred a very colorful image transfer of an artwork of mine. It's hard to make out the, you know, what it is and so on, but I really love the abstraction that's happened as a result, and all these lines coming out. Those are from the transfer as well. It has because of how I did the transfer, it has quite a rough, almost alligator skin texture, or certainly a crackled texture. And then I've worked into it with acrylic paint pen. And so this was a black and white page, and so you can see some of the lines, and definitely all of the color has been added by me.
Scott wonders how many pages you're gluing together at a time.
Ah, that's a good question, Scott. I kind of do it at whim, because what I do is I go through, I've done a whole lot. A lot of them are just 2 pages, but I've also cut out pages, and I think sometimes I've done 3.
Are you just looking for the best next spread kind of thing?
I'm going through it, trying to figure out what do I want to conserve as part of the book, and what might be useful cut out to cut up and collage into things. And sometimes what I've done, let's see if I can find an example of it here.
Quick question from Irene. Who is that man? Looks like an image in the original book. Are you adding your own imagery on top?
Yes, the image transfer I put on top is my own imagery, and then I'll show you later what the drawing is. Yeah, there's all kinds of things I'm doing here. So sometimes I might cut part of a page and then glue that partial page to the next page. So anyway, I wanted to show you. So this is what it is right side up. But then you can look at it upside down, and you can see I've done a line drawing partial portrait of the same guy. And I think there's something to do with the White House that's upside down too over here.
Yeah, it's great.
So yeah, so playing with that, making free with the content. You don't miss the fact that it was a portrait, but really riffing. And you notice that I chose the division line that was from within the artwork that I image transferred onto it. I positioned it intentionally halfway on the midline of the face. So anyway, lots of fun. That was a nice things. Sometimes it's much smaller. So I've got an image transfer here of an old-fashioned hand. There's a name for those, isn't there? Those old-fashioned hands. There's a special name for those.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then you see the intervention I've done on this page, abstracting the type and making the page. So sometimes I go more minimalist. It's funny, you know, this page looks like I collaged something on, but I didn't. All I did was I put this image transfer, and then I'll bring this closer. And you can see this photograph here. I've really worked it with some scratching and some water-soluble graphite.
Manicule.
Manicule, thank you. That is the word. Yeah, so really trying to break up the image.
Gunta says, it reminds me of the exercise you gave in one of your classes to fold up the face in different ways. Great fun.
Disrupting faces is always can be really challenging for some people, you know, and I understand why. Psychologically, it's very hard to beat the hard wiring, but it's so interesting to do. This one, I've collaged in. Well, it's actually a bit of an image transfer, but one that didn't go very well, of a little fraction of one of my chain link images. And then I've also drawn in ink, you can see, because it didn't go well, I just redrew the chain link with hatching. And then you can see I've gone in here with copper pen and white pen and played off lines that were there, but sort of enhancing the organic qualities. So it's really nice looking through this to see, because this is sort of what you have to do when you've put a project down for a while. You have to reacquaint yourself. Hopefully I'm not alone in this group in having put down projects for really long periods of time. Anyone else want to volunteer? Whether you have. This is one where I partial page. So you see I tore the facing page and then glued it to the next page. And then I did some punching of some illustration on some subsequent page and then glued the punches of illustration onto here. Oh no, I'm sorry. I punched through the text to reveal the illustration underneath.
Cool.
Let me hold it closer. Maybe you can sort of see that. There, you can sort of see the shadow there. And there's some more punches.
People are liking that, especially Irene.
Well, and I also think playing with the radials of this was kind of fun with paint pen.
I love the one that goes right through the headline.
Yeah, and right through the headline. Plus, I had the hole punch through part of the word, and covered over parts of letters too. So, yeah. And here's a different one. I don't know why I chose to do this. I had a very strong vision, though, obviously. You know, it really depends on the day. So I brought out my punches for today because here's one that's fairly thick, Scott, since you were wondering. And here's another case of this is a partial page that has been stuck to the page that was further this way.
Show them your hole punch. Irene says, I've never seen such a large hole punch.
Oh, well, no, that's small. This is a big hole punch. That's a 3-inch.
Pull the plastic bit off so that they can see the circle underneath a little more easily.
Okay.
Or can you? Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Well, I can at least get it that far off. That's a 3-inch hole punch.
Wow.
Yeah. I have everything from 1/6. I mean, I'm missing some sizes in between, and I completely fried my 2-inch punch doing a multiples project for the Redhead Gallery. But I have a 1/16 of an inch, an 1/8 of an inch. The normal ones are 1/4 inch, and then
Where do you get them? Irene wonders.
Michael's with my 40% off coupon that, you know, one must not go to Michael's without, right? Because they have one every week. And there's my 5/8. Only one brand has this form factor. Just go and look at the wall of punches.
It's right on the front, I think. The sort of nose there.
Oh, Marvi Uchida. It's a Japanese company, obviously. Uchida. Uchida. Here's my, what is this one? Well, why doesn't it say? It doesn't say. I would suspect that this is a 1-inch, but it might be 3/4 of an inch. Well, there's an easy way to solve that. This is the 1-inch. So I guess they color code them by size, right? This one I was lucky to get. It was on clearance at Dessert. So I got it for a lot less than normal because of that. I guess they were finding they weren't selling enough of them. But, you know, a punch, the right size punch could be useful if you have access to a button making machine. And something I've dreamt about since I was 9 years old. So someday I'm going to have a button making machine. So I'm going to, we got quite, okay, no, it's just creative memories, no. So this is the kind of thing that I love about this. It's very of its time, that illustration, the color that they chose as the second color for the whole book is really distinctive. It's not what you'd call a pretty color, but it's very distinctive. And oh, and these science supplements, they have these unbelievable, now the topic for this one is not very much fun, but they have these unbelievable inserts. So with full color illustrations, right? But we'll get a load of this acetate overlays with full color printing on them so that you can deconstruct. The topic for this one is acne. I don't know if you saw that briefly, but so it's not very much fun, but some of you know I'm very interested in cellular and microscopic views of tissue.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And every one of the science supplements from this encyclopedia set has a section that they've highlighted in this way, which is fantastic. I wish it were the heart instead of acne, but hey, you know, I'll take what I can get. So I'm not touching this for a while because I need to really, really have a strong feeling about what I want to do with it before I touch this, because it's quite precious to me. Those of you who know I love veins and arteries and branching patterns and so on. Look at that nice little illustration there. So I might have to scan that in at some point and mess with it in the same book. So they have really fabulous illustrations and photography. Those are the days when illustrators and photographers could make a good living before Cal and I got into it. We arrived at the end of the glory days.
That's quite the illustration, boy.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Really something. Skills, man. They had skills. So I think I want to grow from what's going on in here. Okay, so I'll move along. So this is a, to me, a nice relationship. So this spread has circles on it. And then the next spread is the one in which I put all these other circles on. And so that's a kind of thing that I like about books or that have sequences. It's a bit like film or something, although it's not properly a time-based medium. It's a sequential medium. Now you can flip it randomly and backwards, but I enjoy thinking of it sequentially. I just need to find a spread that I have feeling about today. Oh, there's an unsuccessfully glued spread. It happens. I'll have to re-glue it. Oh, now that is lovely. I might have to start with something like this. Isn't this just a dandy bit of microscopic photography? It's a mite magnified 1,400 times. And I just think that I need to do something with that mite. I think I'm going to extend it.
Cal says a mighty mite.
A mighty mite. It's mighty because it's been magnified so much. I'm going to start off with, I know, I think when working in mixed media, supplies or materials are always fascinating, right? So it's a Stapler pigment liner from a set, and it's pigment based. It's waterproof on paper. It's light fast, all of that kind of thing. So that's why I'm going to use that. And so I'm going to see what happens visually to this page when I extend the mite. Yeah. You know, I know this is going to seem crazy that I'm showing this already. I've just drawn 2 short lines. But as soon as I do that, this mite has gone from being contained, separate, to connecting to the rest of the page. And so it's just such a powerful, simple strategy for bringing elements together on a page. I'm going to see if I still have a... Is this heavy enough to hold that down? No. What would be heavy enough to hold that down? Nothing, maybe. So, did anyone else bring something that you're working on or playing with or trying out? Hey, Pam. So glad you found us. Every week we have some new adventure. Trying to get this live stream on. I think maybe next week I'll just say come to the channel and find the active live stream. I won't have a pre-booked one. I think it might work better. Well, at one time I had an orange paint pen, but I can't find one.
I can look for it.
Okay. Maybe I have an orange gel pen. I could try that. Well, I have this gel pen. Let's see what this does. Sure, why not? I'm using Sakura Jelly Roll gel pen right now. They have excellent opacity. And this happens to also be a metallic finish. So I'll bring some of it into the photograph too. Well, that's a fun idea. Oh, digital art and Photoshop. Awesome, Scott. And Irene's got a Monopoly game board to collage. Yeah,
that's great.
Game board's a great idea. And Gwen, you have small square water. I love small square watercolor pads. I have to admit, it's like a weakness. Using Liquitex acrylic gouache. Yes, I saw that they have that new product. It looks very tempting. How are you finding those gouaches, Gwen? Please, when you have a moment, I know you're painting something, but when you have a moment, please share what you think of them.
Irene says the Monopoly game and thought about this pandemic could pair well.
Yes, very well. Oh, and look at these lovely. Cal not only has an orange paint pen, he's got 3. So I won't be without, because I'm going to need some more orange. So I don't want this to be the only orange. In fact, I'm thinking here about this ground squirrel. It has a hole leading to its burrow, and I'm thinking that the shape of the bowl of the hole is reminiscent of the shape of the mite's body. So I just might develop that idea.
Gwen said the gouaches brush on very smoothly and are good for a matte finish. Have the basic grays, white and black. Love their fluorescent colors.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine they're nice and opaque too. Certainly what I would hope for them. That's interesting. So this Liquitex
it's
paint pen's very transparent.
The other ones I think are more. I meant to tell you that.
Okay. I'm going to try the other ones then. Molotov. I bet that's more opaque.
Yes.
Yeah, that looks more opaque. Oh, yes. Because it's got some white in it. That's essential. Oh, you can't see what I'm working on. There we go.
Irene says about the Monopoly and the pandemic. She says she was thinking of the phrases stay home, go to jail, do not pass here or there.
Yes, yes. Good associations.
Gunther says that's brilliant, Irene. The Trivial Pursuit made some Canadians very wealthy. Could be the next big hit.
And then you won't need to worry about online learning. Could be the pandemic game. That's something we haven't done yet, dear. We haven't gotten out any of our games. We should. Goodness knows we have quite a few. I think it's just that we've been so busy. Which I realize, we're very lucky to be so busy. I'm very appreciative of that fact, because so many people have lost their jobs, and and other people, maybe they're getting paid or they're getting the emergency benefits.
Serve.
So they're okay, they're surviving financially, but maybe they're not very happy at home, like it's can be a very difficult thing. We are lucky in being happy at home and in being busy in it. So busy that all the spring cleaning, once the isolation was being suggested, or even before it became an official suggestion, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to get so much done. I'm going to get all this sorting and cleaning and projects that I've sort of left to rot for too long. I get all those things done.
Pam says lol, and Cal says, yeah, that lasted about 5 minutes.
Yeah, it really. Well, first of all, I don't know about you. The first 2 weeks of staying at home, I was exhausted. I was tired from, the past 2 years, frankly, but I know it was exacerbated by just the stress of the situation of adapting to the new normal and the uncertainty, right? I hope all of you feel like you're adapting as best you can. I mean, it's tough not being able to see family, and this normally we'd be cooking up some lamb, feeding my mother up, making sure she got home cooked dinner instead of takeout, eh, Cal?
Yeah, exactly. So Pam says, me too, still am, I think, on the
Adapting,
yeah.
or yeah.
Irene says she's been out for walks and runs.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
We went out for a walk yesterday, right?
Yep.
And it had been too many days since we should walk every day. But anyway, we got out and it was cold but beautiful. And it was so invigorating and refreshing. Also, staying indoors all the time, your eyes end up focusing only on things that are close. And we went outside and had to consciously focus on distant things and just let our eyes adjust to doing that.
Gunta says, I think we have group anxiety disorders that limit our normal functioning.
Yeah. There's definitely generalized anxiety just in society right now.
And Irene says, feeling sad about not seeing people at Easter.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of friends who've been sharing their Zoom Passover Seders, which is fun to see. But that's Passover Seders are very ritualistic meals that where you need more than one generation, and there's a role for different people at the table. And just the whole idea of people not being able to gather together for that ritual, well, because they can do it on Zoom, that makes it possible. But
Irene says, good to know how we can take care of our eyes by going for a walk. And
yeah,
Pam says that's a really good point. Eye focus.
Yeah, it's really important for your eyes. It gets harder the longer you go without focusing on distance, the harder it gets. And that kind of agility of focus it will actually stiffen. I wear bifocals, and the reason I have to wear bifocals is because of due to aging, the stiffening of the lens. And that stiffening of the lens means it's not switching between distances properly. And so not going and focusing on distance will exacerbate the stiffening.
Irene says, my eyes were tired and I was seeing blurred after a week of online teaching.
Yes.
That's so telling, actually.
Yes. One of the things you may or may not know already, Irene, but being on the computer for extended periods of time, we blink less. And so our eyes actually get dry. And you may find it useful to have some saline-only eye drops just to relieve the dryness of your eyes, and consciously make yourself blink more. Because we look at a screen and we just sort of stare into it, and we just unblinkingly, and it causes our eyes to dry out. And that contributes to the blurring, along with that just focusing at the same depth of field for a really long time. I'm sort of building up layers of marks in this orange. And one of the things that I like about this is that it ends up with a kind of painterly feeling, even though it's monochromatic. I hope I can show you. I don't know if the camera can capture it very well. Yeah, there you go. So it kind of brings a life to that shape. And now, oh, wrong pen. Actually, maybe I'll get a black paint pen.
Irene says she met a neighbor on her walk yesterday. Her daughter is at a private school, and those kids hate being told to take breaks from looking at the computer screen every half hour.
Oh, now I found my orange pens. I don't know what was wrong with me. Yeah, they do. They do. It's a real problem because the reward systems in the brain are being fed in a certain way, the way addicts get fed by whatever they're addicted to. And so, it's not the kid's fault that they feel compelled to keep looking. But the problem is we need to stop them from looking and take breaks so that their brains rest from that kind of activity and have the agility to adjust to reality and, I don't know, interactions with actual humans and actual objects in space and so on. And I say this as a massive digital user, but I know I have to get outside. I have to get physical exercise. I have to do some cooking or make some manual art like this as a break from it, Breaking open a brand new paint pen. Always fun, but it's also work. It's coming. There we go. So if you've never had an acrylic paint pen before, or an oil paint pen for that matter, you now see it's a combination of shaking and pumping that gets it going. So Scott, I imagine that I remember Dave Munzel mentioned in the comments of some post or other that I had that he and presumably everyone else was off work. When did you guys stop going into work? And are you working from home at all? Like I wonder how things are being managed. Obviously, I've heard from Shelley. Shelley is the woman in charge of the courses in the summer school. She may be in charge of other things too. That's just what I'm familiar with. And she's obviously working from home because I got an email from her, or we got an email from her.
Scott says March 13th, he thinks. We stopped then. Everyone is working from home.
Right, okay.
Gunta asks, is this type of art for your own creative juices? Is there any interested buyers out there?
I am not I'm trying to think how to phrase this. I am not a primarily commercially driven artist. So people buy my work and I'm very grateful for it. And I definitely include formats that are very buyable and very, displayable in normal spaces, like my prints and so on. Altered books are a well-established art form, and there is some market for them. For me personally, no one has yet had the opportunity to buy an altered book from me. I've never offered one. Maybe because I haven't completed them. Could be a factor. So I'm beyond that. I don't think I can comment on the marketability of it. People, except to say people who are known for their book art, and have achieved some measure of sales history with that, will be able to market something like this quite reasonably. I never let myself be constrained by that kind of thinking of, oh, I must become this kind of artist so that I'll get known for that, and therefore people will know to collect that. I'm a genuinely and profoundly multidisciplinary artist, and my needs for different forms and media comes from the kind of person I am, but also the different, in my personal history, all the different threads that come together. And, I worked as a publication designer. I didn't design a whole lot of books. I was more in magazine design, as was Cal. But that whole form factor of the sequential page design for that and so on is part of my personal history. And so I love it. And so I'm doing it for my personal satisfaction, but it's an art project. It's pleasure, but it's art.
Gunta said she'd never heard of them before this. I posted a link to the Wikipedia on altered books.
Oh, good. Okay. So that's awesome. I'm so glad that I've introduced an art form for you, because altered books are a fascinating area. There are artist books, which are created by artists, and then the altered books are interventions like this. And some of them are sculptural. Some of them are about paper folding. It's just extraordinary. Some of them turn into dioramas when you open the book. Yeah, it's really, really amazing.
They have closed the summer program at Halliburton, right?
Yeah.
Because Irene was saying she'll be in Halliburton anyways for 3 weeks in the summer.
Well, maybe she's booked the lodging and she's going to, but you won't be taking courses in the summer.
Scott says, you're making me want to rip open an old book.
Oh, it's so much fun, Scott. Oh, it'd be good if I could tempt you. I know you're like me. You like lots of media. But, well, I don't know what you're doing on your digital art today, but, that image transfer I put over top of the man's portrait, That was a digital mixed media artwork that has had a life as a 3 by 4 foot print mounted on wood panel, but I made and printed it on transfer film about this big and transferred it onto that. So, you could combine your digital with your ripping open an old book.
He says, that's why I keep putting projects to the side. Ha ha ha. Too many mediums.
That's right. Well, plus, and you have a busy work life, so I get that. Definitely. Well, it's fun, like I'm teaching the jelly printing, and jelly printing, I have some background in print because of being a graphic designer for print. In the old days, we didn't have to learn about web design and all of that because it didn't exist for the general population. And so I had a lot of experience working with print in that way. And then I'd done some, block printing and so on, a little bit of silk screening. And anyway, I got introduced to the gel plates, and just so much fun. And I've only been doing them for a couple of years, but it's what I turn to for play. And so now I'm teaching it because it's so much fun. And I've learned enough now that that I can combine it with what I know about art and what I know about color and design and artistic process. So I like that. I like that, bringing things together, different threads together. It kind of, well, if anyone saw photos online of my show last November, you can tell that I like bringing different things together because the media I used were all so varied.
Kim, can you just look at this as I turn it down?
Yeah.
Just a little more.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
That better?
Let me pull this back. There we go. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't thinking. There, I'm drawing in the spaces around this orange hole, and it's quite subconscious. I didn't start planning to do this. I just started while I was talking. And I think I'll do some more extending beyond the photograph.
Scott says he's grabbing a book.
Go for it, Scott. You can do it. Knowing Scott, he'll find a way to felt it and weave it and turn it into textile art. So for those of you who don't know Scott, he works at Halliburton School of Art and Design. He runs the maker space there, which is filled with all kinds of equipment that I drool over, like vinyl cutter and laser cutters and embroidery machine and one or more 3D printers. And when Sandra Dupre was for quite a few years principal and dean there, I said to her, I want a residency that's focused on that maker lab, and I want to be the first resident.
Scott says, I also have a vacuum former.
Oh my God. You're kidding. That's amazing. That's amazing. So you can get into sculpture either by a vacuum forming or 3D printing. That's fantastic. Yeah, I wanted to take your course last year, Scott, at the place, but I wasn't in good shape for doing that. So hopefully next summer, that would be really nice.
Scott says, I've been researching a residency, so stay tuned.
Oh, good. That's so you see, I'm extending from inside the photograph to outside.
I love that fluorescent crater.
Yeah. It's nice to go against expectations, right? Against what you would reasonably expect something to do, because that wakes you up. And art is such a valuable thing when it makes people notice, because most people spend their lives blocking out noticing things, because let's face it, if they live in the city in particular, you have to survive. There's too much noise, there's too many people, there's too much traffic, there are millions of signs. When Cal was putting up his sign installation downtown, which is still up, by the way, if you're taking a little walk down near Queen and Gladstone, just the amount of competition in terms of signage shouting at people.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Scott asks, I'll give them both to you. Scott asks, what kind of glue do you use to glue the pages together? And Pam says, does it matter that I'm using a book from the library? It's okay, right?
Oh, Pam, you are inimitable. I'm so glad you're here. I miss you. What kind of glue do I use? So, Yoo-hoo glue sticks or acrylic medium, depending. For this one, the paper is really nice, but it's thin, so I used glue stick. And Cal, the master of collage over there, I have to agree with him when he consistently recommends Yoo-hoo, because it just seems to work well. Now, I think it's possible there are Japanese glue sticks that are probably really good, just because Japanese tend to make a point of being good at whatever they do in manufacturing and design. But yeah. I know some people are concerned about using glue sticks for things like collage, but if it helps, one of the most important collage mixed media artists, internationally speaking, is Wangechi Mutu, and she uses glue sticks. So that should make you feel better, because she sells her work for a pretty price to very serious collectors. But you can't do it just randomly with any old glue stick, unless it's for your personal pleasure, right? It's for your personal pleasure. You can do anything you want. I mean, if it's legal. Because Pam's in this group, and I need to make sure that I put that proviso in. Well, I never expected to be doing this, what I'm doing right now, and I'm really enjoying this, just getting some lines on the page. I mean, who doesn't love a nice line?
Kim staying at home doing lines.
Could you hear that? Cal said Kim's staying home doing lines.
Scott says, I'm still looking for a book. I found 1972, The Joy of Sex. Ha ha ha.
Oh, wow. I remember that book.
Pam says, what? I think maybe what did you hear? What? Oh, you did say what I did say. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe what is the...
Yeah.
That could be perfect. I agree.
It could be. Could have a lot of fun with that. It's got beautiful drawings in it. Yes, my mother had that book. So I got my studying in early and young. She also had everything you ever wanted to know about sex but were afraid to ask. That wasn't as much fun as The Joy of Sex, though, because The Joy of Sex is well illustrated. Hmm.
I said, I agree, the drawings are great. And then I said, people were hairier then. Scott laughs.
Yes, yeah, people grew their hair. In fact, I remember one specific recommendation of that book was for women not to shave their armpits. So there you go. Different times, folks. Because I remember thinking that was very interesting. I was quite young when I read the book, and I was 11. And I read a lot of things when I was 11, you have to understand. That was when I read my first Shakespearean play. When I was 11, I read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. I read The Lord of the Rings for the first time, and maybe for the first 4 times that I read it. I ended up reading it 14 times by the time I was in grade 8. Yeah, I was reading a lot of challenging material, so just because that one was sexual in nature. We also had books on Asian art that had all sorts of sexual content, and it was interesting. But it certainly wasn't a corrupting influence.
Irene says, wow. Yeah, I agree, Irene.
Yeah, I mean, and then I started life drawing nudes at age 13, right? 2 years after that. So I don't know. I think I got a good start. I don't know what happened to me later, but I got a good start in life that way.
So Irene has a question that you can expand on a little bit.
Okay.
Because you're heading that way. She says, when did you know you were going to be an artist?
I knew for sure when I was I was 15. In kind of the conscious, deliberate sense. Before that, I just was. I was a young developing artist. But, the first juried show I won a prize in, I was maybe 6 years old. And I'd forgotten that for a long time. And then at some point, I remembered my grandfather, who was an artist, had seen a drawing I'd done and submitted it to a juried show he knew about. It was part of an art society he belonged to. He'd co-founded actually, and I won a prize, but I was so young that they wouldn't give me a cash prize. They gave me a plastic badminton set, and not that I didn't enjoy badminton, but I felt so gypped that I didn't get the cash prize. And it's not like I even, at that age, my relationship to money was developing. Let's put it that way. It was I was pretty divorced from it. But I think it was because that was the real prize. Yeah.
Irene asks, did you get accepted at a special art school? Cool to win an art prize at age 6.
Well, I know I went for grades 7 through 11, I went to University of Toronto Schools, which is a school for gifted students. And in those days, it was a quasi-private school. Now it doesn't receive public funding, or if any, very minimal. So they made the school much bigger, and so now financially it's tougher to be in it. But I left 2 years before graduation, and I went shopping around for a different school. And Northern Secondary, where Cal went, he was in the special art program. And so I looked at that because I was interested in the special art program. And really, it seemed like a logical thing for me to do because I was very clear. Art and writing were very much my thing. And anyway, I got a tour by one of the teachers there, and he was so arrogant and so kind of contemptuous that I just said nothing could persuade me to go to this school, which is a real shame because I think the school could have been good for me. With the exception perhaps of that teacher, I could have been good for the school. But yeah, that really turned me right off. I went on this tour by myself because that was the way it was in my family. My mother attended one parent-teacher meeting in my entire school career. So,
And that's a couple of things she said. I have a similar story about winning a prize that I had to give up because I was a girl.
Oh
Not
my
that I'm
God.
still holding a grudge. And then of your Northern thing, she says, I bet that was Sullivan.
Oh, you're right. Oh, I forgot. I don't know. I have no recollection of the name of the man. I probably couldn't have told you a week after I saw him. But I just found that whole attitude. I thought, how am I possibly going to get anything valuable out of a school where this is the attitude, touring a prospect around, yeah. So it strikes me as a bad, I think I exercised good judgment there. I think school maybe exercised poor judgment in having him conduct tours because clearly he wasn't the least bit curious about me, You'd think there'd be some interest in like, oh, so who is this person who wants to be part of this program? Let's see if they're a good fit or how they might be a good fit, or I don't know. What do I know? This is why I do better away from institutions. Or at arm's length, let's put it that way.
You had a similar experience with OCA too, right?
And so, yeah, I was working as a graphic designer for some years, including having my own little design studio. And then I went to work at Key Publishers, which is where Cal and I met, a medium-sized magazine publishing firm with a lot of titles. I mean, when I say medium-sized, with the Where magazines, they must have had close to 100 titles, right?
Yeah.
Plus Key Porter Books was associated with it. So anyway, I was running the art department, the central art department for the company, and I'd been working for some years. And I thought I'd like to go. Cal had come from Ontario College of Art, and I thought, I love what he knows about design thinking. He's such an exceptional design thinker. I love it. And so I should go and get some credentials, and that would be good for my place in the job market. So I went for advanced standing, and everybody told me, oh, nobody gets advanced standing beyond second year. Nobody. I said, well, I have been, doing a lot of work for some years and a wide variety, and I have worked very hard at developing my skills. And I was an early adopter of computer technology and all that. Anyway, it was very interesting, the interview process. I got some very nice responses actually in the interview. There was that man who had a French name. Was he German, but he had a French name like Jean something?
Hans
Or
Kleefeld, maybe.
anyway, he wanted me to only get into second year so that he could teach me. He was drooling to be able to teach me, but they did accept me into third year of a 4-year program, which was, my mind was supposed to be totally blown by that, and I was certainly pleased. But then I was working full time, and I hadn't saved up enough money to do anything but part time. So I enrolled in one night course in corporate design because I thought, well, there's something that I don't know enough about. I haven't had enough experience with. So I took the course, and the young whippersnapper, bearing in mind that I was a young whippersnapper, but just more grizzled than my years because I started so young, because I only did 1 year of university full time, and after that I was working. And she told me in no uncertain, she saw what I got very excited at the first design assignment we had, and I went crazy and did, all kinds of iterations and had so much fun and really pushed myself. And she looked through them, and she said she could see where I was coming from, my point, my aesthetic sense, my design perspective. She said, but if you want to do well in this course, those are good words to start off with, right? I was going to have to do it more like she did. And so we're talking about someone who thinks a headline is this tall, right? Well, look at me, right? I wear bright red lipstick. I have a big head. I've got bold black glasses. The chances of me thinking that that's going to suffice for a headline, and then teeny tiny little type for everything else. She made it very clear that I wasn't going to thrive in this class if I couldn't conform. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting. And, to this day, as a teacher, I am informed by the idea of teaching thinking and processes and techniques, but meeting the student where they are at as creatives, because it's not for me to tell them what kind of creative to be.
Matthew Bard has joined us.
Oh, Matt, how nice. So great you could come along. So and some other things happened, and I just decided there is no way in hell I can have this person as a teacher. I just found her I don't find teaching to create clones of yourself a kind of teaching I can respect. And that's been true all of my life. So I had to leave that course, and I just deferred my admission. So it'd be funny if I went now, given how that was in the 90s. I wonder if I could go say, okay, I'm ready now. Take me into third year. That would be funny, wouldn't it?
Pam says, wow, you really freaked her out.
Yeah, I guess I did, eh? Yeah. Definitely. She was very young. Like she was, I'm trying to think. She was no older than me at the time, but I had many more years experience running design departments, running a business, running an advertising department, and yeah, so that's I think one of the things about treating treating your, especially when you're teaching adults, treating them with respect, because you don't know what they've come from. I mean, if they've run an emergency room, who are you to treat them disrespectfully? You know what I mean? Even if they haven't, even if they've run a home, like, it's like they bring their experience.
So Christine Wing says, so you never
Oh.
went back? And Sandy Wong says, hey, Kim, just wanted to say hi. I'm listening and watching a bit voyeuristically while painting and glazing.
Oh, that's lovely, Sandy. Thanks for saying hi. I appreciate hearing from you. So Christine, no, I left that course. I intended to go back to take courses that were more simpatico with me. But partly because my job, as I was managing an art department of usually about 12 people, and the workload was massive. I worked long hours, but I still took on the odd some freelance assignments because I always felt like I needed to keep my hand in independent of any job, because I never felt like jobs were secure. I know that goes against the social norm, but I always felt that being an employee was actually fundamentally less secure than being self-employed. Now, that means I've spent most of my life without health benefits. But anyway, and in addition to that, the freelance projects gave me creative challenges I couldn't get from my work. So, I'd take on something that was interesting. So the hours were really long, and my ADD, undiagnosed, I don't even think it was a diagnosis at that time, meant that I just lost that thread in drowning in work. And I thought about it, periodically over the years, and that it morphed into my considering for some years enrolling as a mature student in an MFA program, a Master of Fine Arts program. And I looked quite seriously at that. I wasn't exactly sure how I would pay for it, but I wanted to get a feel for it first to see if it was something that I wanted to work towards. And so I went to one of those, what do they call those, portfolio review things where multiple schools show up. And I was quite keen on Concordia for a while because I thought living in Montreal would be wonderful and would give me a fresh perspective. And I was actually born in Montreal, so I thought it'd be really nice to live there for a while. But again, I ran into some very nice people who were encouraging. And I ran into one twit who I was literally there with actual artworks. And she was one of these young know-it-all type people. And I was perimenopausal at the time. So I was inclined to emotional difficulties. Let's put it that way. The hormones were a bit of a problem. Anyway, so I'm there literally with my artworks and ones that I considered my most important ones. And she said, well, did you bring an artist statement? And I said, but I brought the artist. And she said, well, how do you expect me to understand your work without an artist statement? I just thought, oh my God.
Maybe by looking at it.
Maybe by talking to me. I don't know. I'm here.
Pam says she has to fly.
Okay. Thanks for coming, Pam. It's so nice chatting with you.
She says.
Yeah. So just before you fly, I'll share what's going on in this
Looks like a gopher
crazy gopher hole. Yeah, hopefully you can see some of the marks in here too. And so, yeah, it's just extended.
Pam says, lovely.
Thank you. Well, I know you like a nice line, Pam, so now I might want to get a blue thing. So Matt, are you working on anything while we're having this hangout? Are you working on your computer or working on paper or something?
Does that get a better view?
Yes, I think that is a better view. Thank you, dear. I appreciate that.
It wasn't backed up enough.
Yes, you're quite right. That's all right. We're doing our best. I think everybody appreciates the fact that we're doing our best. And we'll try to get better at it every time. Oh, there it is. It's the problem when you have paint pens in like 5 different locations, right? You have to figure out which one has the one you want. Now, I thought just because I'm working in orange, I'll bring in some blue.
Matt says trying to do new work, but having a hard time focusing right now.
It's a tough time for focus, isn't it? Yeah. So it's one of the reasons I like, I thought working on this altered book would be a good thing. Matt, I don't know if you saw this at the beginning, but I've got a bunch of these science supplements, 1972, and it's just awesome. The typography, the design, the illustrations and photography in it are so great. And one of the things I like about this is because it isn't a single image, it's a whole collection, and it has sequence, and it has mashing things together, perforating, collaging, drawing, transferring, everything. I'm throwing everything at it. I can just be very associative about it. And so here I am talking away. I can't be, really hard focused on this. So what's nice about that is it's kind of gentler, and I find that my subconscious comes through in a nice way, and it's playful. And that, I honestly think that playfulness, that easing up the pressure on requiring these things to be good or to be whatever, to be your professional practice, it's very helpful right now when we're going through so much, even if our individual circumstances are okay. There's a lot to worry about. There's so much we're adapting to. I was talking earlier today about how, the processes we go through to get our groceries, to bring them into the house and get them clean so we can put them away. And it's just a lot to go through. So be kind to yourself, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and loosen your grip a little bit, and just allow yourself to play in the arenas of whatever media you like to normally work in, or ones that are outside that even, so that you can just kind of allow yourself to benefit from it without demanding too much from yourself. And surprisingly, I found when I do that, some percentage of what I do ends up being like, oh, that's actually like interesting. That could turn into something I might pursue in some way or continue with in some way. So, yeah. I also find this personally a really great time for physical media. I am doing some digital stuff because I teach a course online every 2 weeks. I was doing that before the COVID crisis happened. And just an independent course called Tradigital Art Studio, which I think Cal mentioned at one of his collage jams. But I decided I can't expand the student body just now because I I can't mentally, I can't cope with that as well as all the new stuff. So, but anyway, because of that, it's keeping my hand in working digitally.
Matt says, play would best describe my activities right now.
Oh, good.
An analogy is I want to build houses, but all I can manage right now is bricks.
Right. Yeah. I think that that's terrific. It's like yesterday the day and the day before in the jelly jam course that I just started teaching online. I was saying, it doesn't all have to be rocket science. You can go into the studio and get warmed up or end up just staying doing this, making grounds with the printmaking that you'll then use subsequently. You'll layer on other things or cut up and turn into collages or whatever. So that's good. I'm glad. Those little elements are a great way to take the pressure off. So I'm glad to hear you're finding a way to do that, Matt. Matt, but for the others in the group who don't know, Matt does these fantastic using 3D software, makes these fantastic imaginings of the city or cities. You've done some wonderful work with the city of Toronto, imagining it in other circumstances, like turning it into water world or a new ice age or whatever. Yeah, very, very detailed, endlessly fascinating, and very complex and highly technical work. So I think making bricks or foliage or, whatever sounds like a good idea. Oh, see, that line got too fat right away because it was wet and wet. I should have known better. But, talking and chewing gum. Sometimes when people make altered books, just like when they make artist books, there's a very strong visual identity. Um, it's like it's been tightly art directed so that it has a very strong consistency of visual language in it. And I think that it's safe to say that my altered book's hallmark will be the variety of visual language. I mean, I'll try to tie it together in a few little ways, but yeah. As Walt Whitman said in his famous poem, I contain multitudes, and that is my life motto.
Irene says, love variety.
Yeah. Well, that's good because someone needs to. Yeah. Kind of a nice ombre going on there. That's good. It's just a little dot. Now that's interesting. So there's a plant here. Desert plant here or prairie plant here that I like the radial spikiness of. So I'm thinking about how I can start connecting it up to what's above or what's below. Oh, I do have an idea. Maybe some white. An extra fine point. Let's see if it's in good nick. Looks like it. I think if I develop the negative spaces in this, By the way, feel free to share, any of you who are working on something. Don't feel obliged, but feel free to share if you've been making some progress on it during our time here. Or if like Scott, you've switched media. Scott, did you settle on a book?
He had to step out, but I don't
Oh,
know
okay.
whether he's back or not.
Okay.
So we'll find it.
Yeah. Oh, he was talking about the joy of sex, wasn't he? The old
he wasn't going to use it because he thought that was starting to
with too important a book.
I said maybe he needs a little more foreplay.
I hope you heard that, Cal saying it. Maybe it needs a little more foreplay. Yeah.
You like the Posca paint pens, right?
I do like the Posca paint pens. They are, now I haven't tested them extensively, but they are designed to be used on a multitude of surfaces, including glass and metal and plastic.
Or any of that Molotov? See how it says one for all? That is also a multi-surface.
Okay, yeah. So Molotov is like the creme, as far as I'm concerned, of paint pens. Very nice and opaque. And I don't know if you can see the all for one underneath the MO. That means it's meant for different surfaces. And it says high solid paint. So it has a lot of solids in here, which makes it a very high quality paint pen. And I first knew about that company because of their spray paint. I think it was at one time the spray paint of choice among street artists and graffiti artists, right? So certainly a premium one. All right, well now I'm really getting myself into some trouble here with my little radial lines. Let's see if I can turn it into something that I don't mind too much.
So Kim, it's 3:45 now. And,
oh, is it?
Irene asked if we were going to go till 3:30, and I said probably more like 4, given that we had the false start.
Yeah, let's go to 4. So next time, I'll just reiterate this. Next time, because of the issues we've been having with pre-scheduled live streams, I'll just share links to my channel, and when my live stream starts, you'll see that live stream appear on my channel, and you can just click on that and join me. And that way I won't have to deal with the issues that seem to crop up all the time now when I try to pre-schedule one.
Scott says he found an accordion moleskin, or moleskine, or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, an accordion one. That's fun. It's fun when books have different binding systems. I mean, I love the classic European signature binding system, but I love alternative ones, like the artist book I showed at the beginning of the artist book in progress, I should say, that I showed at the beginning of our time here. Maybe I should just leave that one as lines. Yeah, that looks better. Scott does wonderful gnomes in felting, among many other media. But you know, they're cute without being kitschy. They're just kind of adorable and lovely and aesthetic all at once. And you also you showed us a lovely felt painting you did. as I recall, Scott, when we were there last summer. It was so, felting has that lovely layering that is so beautiful, plus the fibers.
Scott says, ha ha ha, I have just started putting them in jars.
Gnomes in jars. Oh, that's funny. Now, are you familiar, Scott, with Ian Baxterand's work? So he and his wife, maybe his wife at the time, I'm not sure if they're still together, in the 60s formed something. They're avant-garde Canadian artists in the 60s and 70s and onwards. He teaches at Windsor now, University of Windsor, but they formed something called the Anything Company. And letter N, letter E, and then thing, CO period. And as an umbrella for the cutting edge artwork they did. Anyway, one of the works.
No, he wasn't.
Well, you'll want to check this out. So it did a wide variety, including vacuum formed stuff and very conceptual. But he did a whole series of jars with stuffed animals inside them, like specimen jars. And on my recollection is that they were on red metal shelves, like classic red toolboxes, you know, that powder coating. Very, very nice. And, you know, looking at wildlife in our world today. And what was the context that I saw this in? I got this semi-private viewing of this body of work, you know, portion of it, at the Corkin Gallery in Toronto. Jane Corkin, personally, not because of me, but I was with Andy Fabo, who is a really important, you know, kind of an important Canadian artist. I can't do justice talking about him, but his last name is Fabo, and he was openly queer at a time when that was very new and dangerous, and then the AIDS crisis came, and he was hugely part of art around that, as well as life around that and death around that, and lost a couple of partners to AIDS. Anyway, who were also creative collaborators. Anyway, I had the good fortune to be with him at the Corkin Gallery, and Jane saw him and offered to take us into a private room, and just the two of us with her, and she just trotted out all this wonderful work, including these jars. So you might want to look into those jars.
I've posted a link in the chat to a page that has a couple of images of it.
Oh, great. Thanks, Cal. So great having Cal in the sidelines looking after stuff like that. This is interesting. This Sharpie pen, it's a water-based paint, and it, on the coated paper of this, it beads up very slightly, whereas the Molotov paint did less so. So, you know, the qualities are different with the different paint pens.
Gwen says she's managed to do a few small images and more samples using ranges of white and medium magenta acrylic gouache.
Nice. Working small can be a lot of fun. especially during stressful times, right? Because you don't have to demand as much of yourself as you do with a large surface like I know you so often work on. But I also find it fun working on small units because you get your results quickly, and it's like a little, like having a wonderful little appetizer instead of the whole meal, to my mind. Maybe I'll connect some of these lines up to that gopher hole. What do you think? That might be a good thing to do. Yeah, there's something to that. Matt, one of these virtual studio parties, Peggy tried to join in, but she has satellite internet, so it crapped out on her, unfortunately. I'm feeling very badly for people who have to rely on satellite internet as a result of Peggy's experience, because she mentioned I think I emailed her or something, and she made reference to the fact that, there's a lot of virtual community happening now, like this, like Cal's virtual collage jam, and she can't do it because her internet isn't robust enough.
Tango asks, it says, love what Kim is working on. Is it a journal page?
It is an altered book, and in just a minute I will hold it up again so that you can see what I'm working with. So it has qualities of a journal in the sense that, some people do their journals in old books. This is more, I'm having a conversation with the book itself and altering it in various ways using a variety of mixed media, including painting, drawing, image transfers, decorating, collaging. And if I dream up anything else, I'll probably stick it in here too. Okay. So what I was most recently working on were those, for those of you who are interested, are those white lines joining up with the fluorescent gopher hole. It's not a gopher, it's a ground squirrel, but there you go. And they're very fine lines compared to the black lines that I have up there that grew out of the grasses and the cracks of the earth around the hole. And yeah, connecting it up to the hole just did seem to change things up in a good way. So, yeah, so for anyone who's late to the party, I'm working with a 1972 science supplement to an encyclopedia, the World Book, right? And these are amazing. I mean, I love this imagery. I work a lot with anatomical art, particularly related to the heart and veins and arteries. I don't stick with that. I don't stick with the anatomy source, but I definitely work closely with it, and then I riff off of it and go farther away from it. But anyway, so I thought I would interfere with it. So I'll just go through this again for anyone who was late. So these are the end papers, which I worked with various drawing materials plus acrylic paint.
Matt is leaving, just so you know.
Okay, bye, Matt. Thanks for coming. Good luck with your bricks. That's all right. No, thanks for letting me know. And here's a much more elaborate one that I did with image transfer and paint pen. And it works upside down too. So the photograph of the man was there, but I really worked into it very heavily. And so I just play with the contents of this book visually. See this manicule, as I was reminded this is called, the antique hand, which is upside down. Normally it would be oriented that way. Yeah, I just interfere with it whatever ways I find interesting in the moment. Here's this page is full of perforations. That's what these circles are. They're holes showing through to the page that's underneath them, the illustration. And then I've drawn onto this as well. So that's what I'm working on. Was it Tango? Yeah. So
yeah. Irene says she guesses she'll log out now. Thanks to both of us for a great afternoon. She was having tech.
Oh, were you? Yeah. Okay. Thanks for coming, Irene. Good luck with your Monopoly game. Is that a timer?
Yes. It's 4 o'clock.
That is 4 o'clock. Wow. So, yeah, I'll just show you this one. So this was my spread that I did Tango. I can't explain to you why I chose to interfere with it in that way, but it is a dialogue. Oh, you're very welcome, Tango. Thank you for your interest. So, yeah, it's a book that I've been working on. You can see I'm only this far through it, and it's been a glacially slow pace. But it is a pleasurable project, and it's not commercially driven, although once it was done, it would presumably be available for sale for the whatever person was interested in it. But yeah, I have a lot more to do, more pages to glue together too. So I hope you had fun. It was certainly enjoyable for me chatting with all of you, or most of you. There may be some of you who just have been hanging out but staying quiet. And seems like very productive doodling. Now I'm regretting the bookshelf culling we just did. Wishing you'd kept back just 1 or 2 of those books. Yeah. And, the kinds of things you might be inspired to do could be really different based on the book, based on the paper of the book, the age of it, the typography in it, whether or not it has illustrations, the kind of binding it has. Is it a cloth binding? This one, it is cloth, but it's been coated so that it doesn't feel like cloth anymore, really. Thank you, Gwen. Have a great walk. And anyway, please join me again next week. And just come to my Kim Lee Co. YouTube channel and wait for the live feed to appear. I'll stop pre-booking the live stream since they always mess up anyway. And just do I'll just create a in-the-moment live stream at the time that we get together. It's always Saturdays. It's always at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And yeah, have a good week. And I hope you get some more creative time in. And we'll see you. Say goodbye, Cal.
Bye.
He's imitating my father. Yes, I love books. You gotta understand, I do love books, but honestly, a 1972 science supplement of an encyclopedia, yeah, it's out of date. So it may be a question of just picking a book, Tango, that and then making that first intervention, allowing yourself to make it be wrong, allowing it to be a mistake. Yeah. Thanks, Christine. It is fun. Definitely fun. Maybe there's a workshop in this, eh? We could do an altered book, because most people can find some old book somewhere. It could even be a a decent size pamphlet. Oh, I'm glad, Tango. Please do give it a try. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next Saturday at the same time. Do you need to keep going in the chat for?
Not particularly, I don't think.
Okay. Looks like I can end now.
I give it a few more seconds.
Okay.
But
all right. Will do.
Stay healthy and stay strong and Tango.
Yes, stay healthy, everybody.
Probably.
I can end it now. I clicked the button. There we go.